Hello there, so here we are at day 4, getting really stuck into it now. And today's title is called Finding Your Tribe. Um, it's one of those things that comes up over and over again. I think because people are just so busy. It's like that scattergun thing, isn't it? I'll post a load of stuff on social media, but we're just not getting the traction, we're not getting the conversion. And people have become so weary of it. It's like, how can I get really smart about where I'm spending my time and focusing my energy to get the return on investment that I need? So I want to share that with you today, just to try and help you get a bit more focus and clarity. And what I'm going to do is split it into 3 M's. So the 3 M's are market, who's your target market, media, which media you should be using, and message. So what are you saying? How are you saying it? So yeah, that's what we're going to focus on today. Now that you know what your zone of genius is and how you make a difference to people's lives, it will help you to start get really clear on who the target market is. So you know that you're fabulous at Reiki, and you know that by doing the Reiki you're making a difference to pregnant women. Or I think the thing is that when you've got really clear on what you do well, and you're already, if you're running an existing business, you should have a really clear idea of who you are already servicing. And in marketing, that we use that as a general guide. So let's say we go back to the 40-year-old lady that we were talking about on Monday. And perhaps you are 40, so they talk about like attracting like. So you know that you are making a difference and attracting 40-year-old women. You've already got a great database of those people already. So you're creating an avatar of what they look like. So it's gender, age, children, how much disposable income they've got, where they go on holiday, what type of car they drive, which supermarket they go to, what type of magazines they might read, what shops they go to buy their clothes, what type of budgets they're on. Can you see how it starts to build up a really in-depth profile of the types of people that you're looking for? And we're going to dive a little bit deeper here and go to the opposite side too. So what are their pain points? What is it that they don't want you to know about them? What are they having a discussion with their best pals about that the public domain are not aware of? I think this is particularly relevant in that health sector. You know, so if you're a counsellor or if you're a healer, they might not necessarily be publicly displaying this on an external surface. So that's good when you've already got an existing database of clients, to create some case studies around, so that because people identify with stories, and as they're reading your email, and you might want to, as you're sending your email out, you know, you might want to switch it up a little bit. So this week I'm going to talk about 40-year-old mum who had an issue with an abusive parent, or you know, that sort of thing. And then next week I'm going to talk about eating disorders and how you manage to fix that. And over time, when you're drip feeding it, you see the person is just like, oh my goodness, that's my story, I'm going to pick the phone up today, that's it, I've just had enough. See how it works. So another question might be, what are the 3 mistakes that she's making? What are her dreams, desires, and drawbacks? So you're looking at it from a demographic point of view, as we say in marketing, but also really diving deep into her psyche. The next theory I want to share with you is about disciples. So just share a little story with you. Imagine that you're Jesus Christ. And imagine that all you have to do is spread the gospel of your business far and wide. And imagine that to spread the gospel, you need 12 disciples. And you could have 12 disciples in in today's world on every one of the different platforms that you're using. And my definition of a disciple is someone who is not in direct competition with you, but someone who has the exact same target audience as you. So for example, you might have someone who, you might be a yoga teacher and you might do baby yoga classes. So it might be, mums with little tots who are trying to get back into shape. So a great disciple for you might be someone who runs the local Weight Watcher class. Might be someone who is, because if she's just in that transition of having one baby to another one, there might be a baby clothing retailer on the high street. See what I mean? So when you really get clear on who your target market is, you can start to pull in these disciples, and your job is to feed and nurture those disciples. So I would create an email database just of those disciples so that you can drip feed them the work that you're doing. Great ones are hairdressing salons, because they're having intimate discussions with their clients all the time. We girls know that you can be in the hairdressing salon for a couple of hours, can't you? And they're like your best buddies are the hairstylist. So ask the question. Say to her, would you mind if I bring a few flyers in? There's also some great software. So we're talking about spreading the gospel virtually, online, but also face-to-face too. So if you... let me just share this story with you because it's a fabulous one. I have a client who's a spiritual healer, and she was trying to get into... She wanted more people to do an online program, and I was helping her pulling some marketing together, and she investigated. There was a local Reiki practitioner who had classes where people would go in directly to those classes, and she contacted the Reiki practitioner. She actually taught people how to do Reiki, and asked her if she could go in and do like a little taster session on spiritual healing. And the woman nearly bit her hand off because it was like perfect for her target audience. And she wasn't in direct competition with them, so what it was doing was adding value. This lady, the Reiki lady, had got a huge database and sent out the email to invite the women in, and the class was full. There was 30 odd women in this room. So in an afternoon, she made a nice healthy profit. She created a new database of the ladies that had actually come to her class. And so you see what I mean? It's tapping into disciples' lists, and also being happy to do that and reciprocate, because what goes around comes around. And there's also some great software out there that will help you on the online world. They call these disciples affiliates. So it's affiliate tracking software. Lots of things like lead pages and ClickFunnels. I'll put the links below so that you can have a look. I'm using something at the moment called MailerLite, which is a free bit of software to be able to send emails out to people. What I like about it is that it also creates independent landing pages so that you can capture the data, which is how I got you onto this free 5-day challenge. So I'll put those links in the bottom of this email so that you've got them. Let's move on to the second M. So the second M is media. Social media, when you're a business owner, sort of becomes the bane of your life, really, doesn't it? And there is no one size fits all, but I do think that we can do it much smarter. So most people are pretty okay with social media, and I want to share with you some smart ways of doing it. So now that you've got clear on who your target market is, I'm just going to go through the big 5 and explain my perception of what I think they're used for. So LinkedIn, business owners. It's a business platform. If you're looking for business people, then in LinkedIn is absolutely where you need to be. Facebook. If it's people over 45, then Facebook, and you work in the, what people do in their downtime. So if it's yoga classes, that sort of thing, then Facebook is absolutely the right thing for you. The lovely thing about Facebook is Facebook advertising. I'll just talk about that for a little while. Oh my goodness, Facebook advertising is brilliant. If you're looking for people and you want to target them from an interest point of view, there's also some really smart stuff around remarketing and putting pixels on your website. So without getting too technical, you can add a little bit of software at the back end of your website so that when someone has been to look at your website and they click off again, you can remarket them through Facebook because it's collected their data through the cookies. I'll be talking more about that in another program, so let me know if you're interested in finding out more about the smart Facebook advertising. My take on Twitter is I really like Twitter. I think it's one of those sort of catch-all things. It's particularly great if you've got a new product or you've got a great story to share, because journalists are all over Twitter. They even do a hashtag called Journo Request. So if they're looking for particular stories about entrepreneurs, about, whatever for their magazine, they'll put something on Twitter to get people to respond to it. Also, you can do some great research on Twitter too. And then the next one is Pinterest. So Pinterest is, I think of it as like a digital scrapbook. It's nice for if you're in the wedding industry. Pinterest is great for putting together ideas and that sort of thing, where potential brides are pulling together, colour themes and dress styles and hairstyles and all that sort of thing. Quite a feminine place, I think, generally. And then finally, Instagram. So Instagram has sort of become the new Facebook or newer Facebook for, I would say, people in their 20s and 30s. It's where the celebrities hang out, which is probably how it's attracted them in the first place. Very visual. You can only do it on your phone, which is the bane of my life. So if you're looking for women, the young mums that we talked about earlier are definitely on Instagram. And my recommendation to you is that you pick two and focus on two and schedule them. So if you missed it the other day, spend half a day a week planning, scheduling, putting together your social media posts so that you've got a steady stream of stuff going out through the week. And remember, also think about your target audience and think about when they're going to be on social media. So if it's a busy young mum, she's going to be doing it in the evening, isn't she? Well, when the kids have gone to bed, she's not going to be doing it through the day. She's going to be too busy. If it's a young, metro man or somebody like that who gets the training to work, then absolutely schedule stuff to go out between the hours of 7 and 8 in the morning, because that's when they're all looking at their phones on the train or on the bus or whatever out there. Do you see what I mean? So really take into consideration when they're going to be on. And finally, message. That's the third M. So the big takeaway, the big headline for this is quality, not quantity. So I talk about this on Twitter in particular. If you don't add any hashtags or the @ symbols where you're tagging people into it, it's like standing at the top of the Grand Canyon and shouting and nobody's listening. So there's an optimum ratio for writing a tweet, which is 2 hashtags, 1 @ symbol, or 2 @ symbols, 1 hashtag. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm sorry. I'm going into a bit too much detail. The objective is always to drive them back to your website. and write about their pain points. So they will identify with the stories, as I said earlier. So it's your objective is to share the stories, share the case studies, talk about the clients that you're working with. It can be anonymous. You're not sharing anything that's untoward if you're not naming names. But always ask, if they're happy for their story to be shared. Some people love it. Some people love the limelight. It's their 5 minutes of fame, isn't it? So don't be scared to ask. You could always put, M from Horsforth or something like that, couldn't you, if you need to. So I hope that's been helpful. So your challenge today is to really get clear on what social media platforms you're using, how you are going to, get them to subscribe. Tomorrow I'm going to be talking about how you take all that activity and you actually get them to be paying customers. That's the final bit of the journey. So if you've got any questions tonight on the stuff that I've covered, we'll be going live together as usual, and I look forward to seeing you at 6 o'clock this evening. Goodbye, take care, and have a great day. Namaste.